2023. A semi-detached house in Manchester sold for £285,000. 3 months later, the same house was listed again. Same street, same condition, same agent. The asking price? £259,000. That's not a correction. That's panic. And it's happening in places you wouldn't expect. Not just London, not just overheated southern commuter towns. This is Nottingham, Birmingham, Bristol. Cities where houses were supposed to be safe bets. Something broke, quietly, and most people haven't noticed yet. Here's why this matters right now. For 2 decades, the UK housing market operated on one simple belief. Prices only go up. Not quickly, maybe, not smoothly, definitely, but up. Always up. That belief built an entire economy. Homeowners borrowed against rising equity. Buy-to-let investors leveraged one property to buy 3 more. Banks wrote mortgages assuming appreciation would cover any risk. The government taxed stamp duty like it was printing money. Then interest rates moved. Not crashed, not spiked, just moved. From 0.1% in late 2021 to 5.25% by August 2023, the fastest rise in 4 decades. And suddenly, the math that held everything together stopped working. You're not hearing about it the way you heard about 2008. There are no queues outside Northern Rock, no emergency bailouts, no dramatic collapse. This is different. It's a slow puncture, a structural crack that spreads in the dark. And the people who feel it first aren't the ones making headlines. Let's rewind and talk about how the machine actually worked. In 2020, you could get a 5-year fixed mortgage at 1.5%, maybe less if you had a decent deposit. On a £300,000 loan, that's about £1,200 a month. Painful, yes, but doable for 2 average salaries. Now imagine it's 2025. Your fixed deal ends. You walk into the same bank, same loan amount, same property, but now the rate is 5.5%. Your monthly payment just jumped to £1,850. That's an extra £650 every single month. Not because you borrowed more, not because you missed payments, just because the era of cheap money ended. Now multiply that across millions of households. According to UK Finance, about 1.6 million fixed-rate mortgages expired in 2023 alone. Another 1.4 million are rolling off in 2024. These aren't reckless borrowers. These are people who did everything right, saved for a deposit, locked in a low rate, planned their budgets. But here's the uncomfortable part. Most of them borrowed at the absolute peak of affordability. They stretched. Banks approved them because rates were low and prices were climbing. It made sense on paper. The system assumed rates would stay low forever, or at least long enough for wages to catch up, or for the property to appreciate enough that refinancing would be easy. None of that happened. Wages grew at 6% in 2023. Sounds decent until you realize inflation hit 11%. Real incomes shrank. And house prices? They didn't crash, they just froze. Down 3% nationally. But in a market built on momentum, flat is fatal. Now let's talk about the part no one wants to say out loud. The UK housing market isn't just expensive, it's leveraged. Total mortgage debt in the UK sits at about £1.6 trillion. That's roughly 75% of GDP. For context, that's higher than it was before the 2008 crash. But here's the twist. Back then, the problem was bad loans, subprime, ninja mortgages, lending to people who couldn't afford it. This time, the loans are fine. The borrowers are fine. The problem is the asset. UK house prices are nearly 9 times average earnings. In the 1990s, it was 3.5 times. Even in the mid-2000s bubble, it only hit 7 times. We sailed past that. We normalized it. And when asset prices disconnect that far from incomes, they don't need to collapse to cause damage. They just need to stop rising. Because here's what happens. If your house isn't appreciating, you can't refinance to release equity. If you can't release equity, you can't renovate, Can't consolidate debt? Can't help your kids with their deposit? The entire consumption engine that ran on rising home values just stalls. Buy-to-let landlords are already feeling it. Mortgage interest relief was slashed in 2020. Now rates have tripled. The math doesn't work anymore. So they sell. But to who? First-time buyers can't afford the monthly payments. Other landlords don't want the hassle. So properties sit. Prices inch down. Not enough to make headlines, just enough to spook the market. Let's contrast what you're being told versus what's actually happening. The official narrative: the UK housing market remains resilient, prices stabilizing after a period of rapid growth, strong fundamentals, limited supply. The reality on the ground: transaction volumes are down 20% year over year. Mortgage approvals hit a decade low in late 2023. Time to sell has stretched from 8 weeks to 14 weeks. Estate agents are quietly slashing asking prices after 3 months with no offers. Developers are offering incentives, stamp duty paid, free upgrades, carpets thrown in. That's not confidence, that's desperation dressed up in marketing. And then there's the gap between asking prices and actual sales. In some regions, homes are selling 7 to 10% below the original listing, but those lower prices don't show up in the headline indexes right away. They're lagging indicators, backward-looking. So the news says prices down 2%. The market whispers, try 8%, maybe 10%, and falling. Here's the irony. Politicians and central bankers spent years worrying about a housing crash. They threw every tool at it, preventing it: help to buy, stamp duty holidays, quantitative easing that inflated asset prices. They succeeded. Prices didn't crash, but in doing so, they built a market so fragile that it can't handle normal interest rates. A market where a 5% mortgage, historically unremarkable, feels apocalyptic. They prevented the crash by making the system so delicate that it can't survive anything but perfect conditions. So what does this actually mean? For homeowners sitting on variable rates or coming off fixed deals, a silent affordability crisis. Not foreclosures, not mass defaults, just people quietly cutting back. Holidays canceled, cars not replaced, retirement contributions paused. For first-time buyers, the worst of both worlds. Prices haven't fallen enough to be affordable, but borrowing costs have risen so much that even lower prices don't help. The same house that was out of reach at £300,000 and 1.5% is still out of reach at £280,000 and 5.5%. For the broader economy, a drag that doesn't show up in dramatic fashion. Housing makes up 15 to 20% of UK GDP when you count construction, transactions, and related spending. And here's the uncomfortable question no one's asking. What happens when this generation of homeowners retires? They've stored their wealth in property. They've borrowed against it. They've assumed it would fund care, pass to their kids, underwrite their later years. But if prices stay flat for a decade, eroded by inflation, that wealth evaporates in real terms. The pension they thought they had locked in bricks and mortar turns out to be a mirage. We built an entire social contract on rising house prices, and it's cracking. So here's where we are. The UK housing market isn't collapsing. It's doing something potentially worse. It's freezing, calcifying, turning into a trap for people on both sides. Owners can't sell without taking a loss. Buyers can't enter. Investors can't make the numbers work. And the government can't cut rates because inflation, though cooling, isn't gone. There's no villain here, no single bad decision, just a system that ran on cheap debt for so long that it forgot how to function without it. And the question isn't whether it breaks, it's already breaking, quietly, street by street, mortgage by mortgage. The real question is what comes after. Because a society that locks its wealth in immovable assets and its young out of ownership doesn't stay stable forever. It just stays quiet until it doesn't.